Let's go back now to our top stories. Embattled British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is set to deliver a statement today. There are reports that he's going to resign. While this is, of course, we know that he has. His key allies have resigned as ministers in his cabinet and urged him to step down. For the latest, we now cross to SABC News Correspondent Laura Makin-Isherwood in London. Laura, of course, we know that the inevitable happened after we saw over 50 resignations. Before we heard that Boris Johnson would resign, of course, he then announced the inevitable that he is stepping down. Talk to us about key points from his speech that he made earlier outside Number 10, including something along the lines of herd instinct, pushing him out, etc.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he came out in front of Number 10, in front of that famous black door, stood at the lectern and delivered this speech, which was effectively his resignation speech, saying that he would be standing down as leader of the Conservative Party. He said that he was sad that it had been one of his life ambitions, basically, to become Prime Minister, that it was a priority for him, that it was a privilege as well, and that he had tried to deliver for the people. He spoke about Brexit and getting things like that done. He spoke about the need to level up around the country, providing opportunities to people not just in big cities like London, but also smaller parts of England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland too. But yes, you're right, he spoke about this herd movement, basically pushing this decision on the collective Conservative Party and their decision to try to get him out, it seems like. Now, of course, we've seen over the last few days more than 50 people resigning from his cabinet and from government, those that held senior positions there, not least within the cabinet, but also aides and envoys to different countries as well. We also found one of his new appointees, Nadine Zahawi, who was appointed just yesterday as Chancellor of the Exchequer, coming out on TV and asking for the Prime Minister to resign. So it seems that that pressure eventually has built up so much that he decided he had to now go. What it means at the moment, though, is that he's remaining in Number 10 as the Prime Minister until the autumn, he says, until a new leader of the Conservative Party can be decided. His decision to step down as leader of the Conservative Party has triggered that race to find a new leader, but it will take time. However, there are plenty of people concerned that he is remaining in Number 10 and want him out much sooner.
Talk to us about just some of the recent developments and some of the strong criticism that has led essentially to what we are seeing now is his downfall.
Yeah, a series of events, you're right. There's been plenty in the last few weeks and months that people have been talking about. Every time there was a fresh blow for the Prime Minister, people were speculating whether that would be the thing that would get him out. Of course, we had the scandal over Partygate, the parties that were held in Number 10 and across government, of course, during COVID-19 lockdowns, when the rest of the country and the general public were told to stay away from their loved ones, to isolate and be careful, effectively, to try to stop the spread of COVID-19. We also had these claims that members of his party had been offered money in order to try to lobby the government. We've also had extra speculation as well around this no confidence vote. Boris Johnson faced a no confidence vote just a few weeks ago. He survived that. Now there were moves again from the 1922 committee, a group of MPs, to see if they could bring another no confidence vote and get him out of Parliament. It now seems that that has happened, and we just need to wait and see what happens next, because we know that plenty of people think that he shouldn't remain in Number 10 for much longer.
Of course, we know that he is going to remain in that position as this caretaker Prime Minister. You know, talk to us about what the indications are in terms of a possible successor who will then take over from Boris.
Well, there's been plenty of speculation around that, of course, for weeks as well. The favourite at the moment is actually Ben Wallace. He's the Defence Secretary. He, of course, has remained pretty stable over the last few months, but he's come to the fore, of course, with the Ukraine war and the invasion by Russia there. He has been overseeing the armed forces. He's been trying to help with the coordination of supplying weapons to Ukraine to defend themselves, also helping with training Ukrainian defence forces here in the UK as well. well. So he is one of the favourites. Rishi Sunak, another name that's out there, the former Chancellor, one of the first people to resign from his position in Cabinet, probably starting this trickle effect and domino effect, if you like, of more and more people saying they didn't believe in the Prime Minister's leadership. He's up for contention. And then we've got the Deputy Prime Minister at the moment, Dominic Raab. He, of course, stood in for Boris Johnson when he was in hospital with COVID-19 during the pandemic. So he knows the situation. He knows everything that's happening in Parliament at the moment. Now, former Prime Minister John Major, a former Conservative Prime Minister, has actually written saying that he believes that it should be Dominic Raab that is caretaker Prime Minister now, saying that Boris Johnson should not be in there and it's for the good of the country for him to go. But it's really not clear whether that's going to happen or not.
Laura, very quickly before I let you go, just what is the sentiment on the ground? I mean, are people concerned? Is there some level of confidence that a new kind of leadership will be ushered in?
It's really mixed. When we speak to people on the streets, of course, some are pretty happy that this has happened. Finally, he's gone. There's been a lot of focus on what's been taking place inside Downing Street. And the latest polls are saying that 69% of the public thought that the Prime Minister should resign from his post. Now, as you say, the focus will be on who will be his replacement. That will be decided by the Conservative Party and their members. So it's up to the party ultimately, not the public, as to who becomes the next Prime Minister. The only way the public can decide is if there is a general election, and it doesn't seem like one of those is going to be called just yet.
Okay, fantastic. Laura, thank you so much for that. That's all we have the time for today. Laura Makin-Isherwood reporting to us live there in London.